Hi, welcome to Conversations with Elizabeth Ellen Carter. I'm absolutely delighted to have as my returning guest Mira Platt, who is my fellow author at Dragonblade. We're also working on a little project for 2022, and we'll be talking about both of those things. Welcome, Mira. It's great to have a chat with you again. And
Yes. Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
Um, one of the things that I was really looking forward to talking to you about today is your series with Dragonblade, the Book of Love, um,
Mhm.
which I absolutely adore. It's such a charming series, and I just love sort of the exploration of the dynamic between men and women, your heroes and your heroines across it's 12 books out now, isn't it?
Yep. Yep. And I'm currently working on number 13.
Oh, wow.
So as long
Wow.
as the readers want them, I'm delighted to write them. So
Well, I mean, that raises a really interesting point because, you know, 12 going 13 books, that is a huge commitment, and also it draws on the strength of the underlying theme that you can create so many unique stories out of it. So for anyone who hasn't read the series yet, could you give us an overview?
okay. Yeah. So let me just go back a little bit to how I came upon the idea. And that was while strolling through a book fair, and I had met a neuroscientist who had written a book called True Love. And as we got to talking, because of course I was immediately attracted by that title, and as we got to talking, and he was explaining, the effects of uh, the neurological effects of love on us, and on people were just the but of course I couldn't use any of like the science of it, because back in the 1800s there it did not exist.
Mm.
But what I could use was the the elements and the steps of how people fall in love, that first attraction, and and then the progressive stages where you go from seeing somebody, and that's the very first step, which is the sight, and which is why the first book in the series is called The Look of Love,
Uh-huh.
because it's that first step. Um, but that's just like the primal, your body. That's the non-thinking brain. He also, in his book, he spoke of men having two brains, which I thought was just hilarious. Well, not hilarious, and interesting, and charming, and just like showed a difference between, and the women have the one brain, men have the two brains. And so the first brain with the man apparently is just that primal needing to procreate and spread his seed. And that's just like the non-thinking, the non-thinking
Yeah, the
brain. It's just
amygdala,
that,
lizard
yeah, it's
brain.
just like that innate urge to, I see a pretty woman or a woman that appeals to me, and you know, I want to have her.
Mhm.
And uh, but of course that doesn't work long term, because as what happens is, if you just go, you have your way with the woman and then leave her, if she has your child, there's nobody to protect them. So you have to move on to the next step. The
Mhm.
male has to move on to the
Yeah.
next step. So factoring that in, and there's steps even so. Once the man is ready to move on to the next step, but the way he does it is, so first is the sight. She's beautiful, and apparently men are programmed to look at the woman's bosom first, the bust first, and for whatever reasons, whether it's because that's the source of milk for the child, or just they like them, and this is what they also were children, and they nursed at their mother's breast, whatever, fascinated by breasts. So that's the first thing. If they like that, a healthy breast, this is what they'll move to look at the woman's body. And then thirdly, they'll look at the face.
Mhm.
And so as each progression, that's like the instantaneous thing that happens in the first instance. Then they'll look, so 1,000 women might appeal to them at that level. And then they move on to the five senses. So you've got, sight, touch, taste, hearing, scent, and if those are all pleasing, and so maybe you cut out 1,000 women because of that,
Mhm.
and you're left with maybe 50 women because of this please. And so as you so as he progresses and continues to winnow them down, then he moves on. What connections, what expectations in a marriage, or it just that's the progression.
It then sort of goes up to the higher order brain.
Yes, and that's at that point he's moving on to the high brain, where the female is always in that high brain because of the way we're built. We know
Mhm.
that we need that protector there. We need that someone who's going to, when we're at our most vulnerable, be there to watch out for us and the children we produce.
Well, this is it. I mean, mate choice is absolutely critical for women because of the risks inherent in childbirth. It's sort of
Yes.
their childbirth and raising children.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, women have to be more switched on in that regard because it's not just the urge to reproduce, but it's a case of, well, if the legacy of that is going on for years.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes. So no, it's true. And so as I worked through the series, so the first book was called The Look of Love, and then we went to The Touch of Love. So each one examines, and then The Taste of Love and The Scent of Love and The Song of Love. So each one took one of the senses, and then we moved on to The Kiss of Love, and in that portion we go beyond the five senses and start looking at like what makes a couple compatible. And one of the there's actually a lot of very good information. The books are light and sweet, but they're deceptive in that they're actually very deep in terms of, if you really read them, you're going to understand what makes for a healthy union.
uh,
And one
yeah.
of the biggest factors too was that, you know, if you really concentrate, so this book of love that I've actually is supposed to help the heroines and the heroes really see or hear or understand with a clarity, not like what they want to see, right? Because how many people, if they're going out with somebody, they force it. They overlook things that they know that they shouldn't accept, but because they want to be in a relationship, so they lie to themselves, they hide from the truth. They thought, so this is part of the book as well. It teaches you to really look and learn how to see clearly or hear clearly, and think clearly about what your future spouse or partner will offer you, and is that going to be compatible. So as each book goes on, we delve into different levels of whether it's compatibility or expectations in a marriage, and also just connections, and what faults can you accept and what faults can you not accept. And they don't have to be like major things like alcoholism or drug addiction or anything. It can be little things like one of the parties always wants to go out and be in the limelight and be in the city, while the other one just wants a quiet life in the country and be in a library with a book and or it could be somebody where you can't stand the laughter, or you can't stand the sound of the voice. I mean, all these little things that just will break up a couple. So each book goes through an aspect of romantic love uh,
I love it. And to me, that is the real opportunity with writing romance is um, exploring the dynamic of what makes a healthy relationship, what makes the actual happily ever after, because attraction is great and wonderful and exciting, but it's not the total foundation of a great relationship. Um,
right.
that that there is so much more to negotiate. I know this is why, from my perspective, why I like writing adventure romance is I like to have the couple work together against a common cause or a common enemy, and see that relationship of evolve of working together. So when we get to the happily ever after, sort of, I can be satisfied that, yeah, this couple will last the distance. But of course, life isn't action adventure for 99.9% of us. So there's got to be another way of exploring the dynamic, sort of what makes the two one flesh, as the odd marriage vows go, and working through the book of love, I think is just an absolutely delightful way of representing what a healthy sort of relationship is between men and women.
Yes, yes, and how they develop, and you know, and in the first few books, you know, and I had set up the first three books. I had really set up the couples where the three girlfriends and the three male, you know, male friends. The girls were little, you know, back from when they were 6 and 8 and 10 years old, all together. And one of the girls is the brother of one of the heroes. So the men are about 8, 10 years older. And so in their early days, they were kind of in the same area, but like, you know, and crossing paths, but the men were, you know, these are little girls, they're discounting them, and they're young college men, and they're looking for, you know, for the older women and, and a little more sophisticated, right? And so part of the fun of these first three in the series was having the men, which the series actually then takes place, you know, 10 years later when the girls are now young women, and the men just do not see. They're coming back from the Napoleonic Wars now, and they're experienced, they're worldly, they think they're going to come back and just have fun and go wild, sow their wild oats, do whatever. But instead, they find that they're starting to be attracted to, you know, the girls that were, you know, they were just little girls, and they're resisting. The men are resisting because these are little girls. So part of the fun in this was to have the girls, now that they found the book and they're clueless, they don't know what they're doing.
They are so sweet. They're lovely girls.
You know, which is like the fun of it, because, you know, you see that they don't know what they're doing, but they're going to get it right. They're just going to get it right because they're irresistible. And that was the fun. So they're working so hard, like, how am I going to make him think of me as something other than a little girl, you know? And like, oh, well, the men like breast up. All right, they're not going to show the breast, but they're going to, like, you know, pull the little things a little lower.
Oh,
and, you know,
and forgive me, I've forgotten the name of it. When she comes down the stairs for breakfast and sort of, you know,
yes, Olivia,
sort
right.
of.
Right, and he's looking
like, delightful.
Yeah, he's like, you know, he's looking again, and like, he's looking again. Like, what did you do? So, you know, but that's just it. It's like, come on, you got to think of me as a female now, as a grown woman. And so that's the, you know, so they're like working hard trying to get these guys to notice them, but they're not really thinking that these are going to be the loves of their life, you know, because, oh, these are, right, of course they say, well, you know, what dummies can we pick on to test these theories on, or not dummies, but like what what
Test
safe
subject.
guys, safe, they're safe. We can
Yeah.
test it on them, right? So,
Mm.
but of course they're not safe. So, and they're gonna fall. And as the girls realize that, these little tricks that they use, it works
Mhm.
both ways. They find themselves all of a sudden falling in love with their little test frogs here. So
Oh.
it's just all in good fun. It's fun. And and so and this the latest one, they get a little bit more serious as we go down the road, because I like to deal with just little topics that happen in real life, but always with a light touch. It's always going to be, there's always going to be fun. It's humorous, and the men are like alpha and worldly. They're not shy retiring scholars, but they're
Mhm.
very intelligent men. That's an important thing.
Yeah.
But and they're not, they may be, they're handsome, and they're physical, they're used to physical labor and their bodies show it, but they're not, you know they're
They're not
not
the
like,
Arnold Schwarzenegger sort of.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but yeah, and then the latest one I have, it's just out now, is the Journey of Love. And it's actually the heroine who had a trauma that she suppressed, like, just a
Mm.
year before she's to go out to London on the marriage mart. And so she doesn't want to go to London. She doesn't want to meet anybody. She doesn't, and the family doesn't understand why she wouldn't want to do it. And so it's a little bit of like that, what she was repressing a bad incident. And it's not rape. I don't do that. I don't like
Mm.
that in the books. I don't deal
Yeah.
with it. But, but what happened was traumatic for her. And here you have, so I matched her up with a stoic, kind of just a guy who kind of like, just he grunts, he doesn't talk much, and he's an agent of the crown. He's like the top agent, is very sharp. Nothing gets past him, but he's secretly in love with her. And so when she runs off, because she is not going to, she's not going to London, he's like England's best tracker. He tracks down all of the spies, rebels, you name it. He goes after her. But of course, it's very personal, and he's mad with worry till when he finds her. But
Yeah.
but then their interaction is, that she's in the safe surroundings because he loves her. He just hasn't told her yet, but this is how he feels about her. So when a reader reads it, it's like, it's a heartwarming. It's like, it's
Mm.
going to be
Yes.
fine, that she's got the right guy here who really is going to look out for her and love her. But in doing that, he also helps her gain her own strength. And that's always a very important part of, that's the thing with my heroes, are always very much, they don't subsume the woman. They encourage them.
And that again is part of, to me, the definition of the happily ever after is, by the end of the story, your hero and heroine, both of them, are better versions of themselves. That what we see is the unlocking of potential in both of them, to begin to play to their strengths, and how their strengths mesh together,
Yes.
to form this solid union. It's sort of, I just love the romance genre because of the opportunities to explore that, because it's so fundamental. It's, just about every soul on earth is looking for that connection in their significant
Yes.
other.
Yes. I feel so that way. And I think that's why this industry is so popular, because you do, when you read a good romance, there's real enchantment in it, and
Mm.
you feel happy and you feel hopeful. That's how, whether we're going through an adventure that's going to take you, on a sailing ship around the world, or whatever it is, or just in a London drawing room, it's going to make you feel good.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and 13 books and counting.
Yes, yes. But I am starting a new series because Dragon Blade asked me to, enough of these, even though they're still, thank goodness, doing well, but it's nice to have a change. This is not
Yeah.
what, it's not the only thing I want to get caught up in writing, but I do have a new series that's going to come out in 2022. And
Is there anything you can tell us about it?
um,
or I put you on the spot. That's okay.
no, actually, the very little right now, only because I don't even have the covers for it or anything like that. And I haven't started to write, but I do have the outline. I know exactly where it's going and who the parties that are going to be. And actually, I'm introducing it, like a little precursor of it, in the Upon a Midnight Dreary Halloween set. Yes.
Ooh.
So.
Oh yes, yes. I remember we discussed that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that set, which will have their aunt who's going to leave her three nieces this lovely cottage by the sea in a town called Moonstone Landing. That's so her story and her her unusual romance, right? Because her hero is
everyone, if you want to know what we're talking about, go back, take a look at the earlier video, and we talk about that lovely story and the cinematic and TV series inspiration behind it.
Yes, the Ghost and Mrs. Muir. So that's what it is. It's the hero who's who dies before his time, really, and he's tied to this cottage, right? And as in The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, and he falls in love with the heroine, who's for my heroine, my guy is the sea captain who died. Of course, he's going to die very heroically because he was saving a ship full of little school children, and so he died in the sudden squall that came up. So while he managed to rescue them all, he didn't make it, and so he's connected to the house now, and the aunt of the three heroines who are going to be in this upcoming series, she's moved in on her own, and he's wondering, she's young, she's beautiful. He thinks he's going to haunt her, but then he changes his mind. He decides, oh no, I like her. Keep her around. So, but we have fun. It's always fun. I don't do creepy. I don't do creepy, scary, but it's just more romantic, ghostly romancing.
Oh no, I absolutely love it. And of course, this is not the only new project on your books. I did check in with the rest of the Blue Stocking Bells, so we do have permission to talk about a new anthology that will be coming out in May, called Desperate Daughters. And wow, so much fun with this series, especially as an author, because the setup is we have a common outline. The Earl of Seahaven has died, leaving all daughters, no son to inherit. So that estate goes to a distant cousin who is a little bit of a ratbag and has chucked the ladies out. And now sort of it's time to find them husbands.
Yes.
And
you and I are writing the stories for the diamonds, the beauties of
the beauties. Yes, we're writing sisters, and in fact there are 3 sisters because I've got twins.
Yes. Yes.
And
Iris, right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. They're great. I had fun trying to emphasize the fact that they are close, identical twins, but they do have separate personalities and their romances evolve in slightly different ways, but their real concern is initially finding brothers, because, well, if they marry brothers, it means they'll see each other more regularly than if they marry complete strangers who may take them to different parts of the country. So in addition to finding their one true love, that's something in the back of their mind as well. So fleshing all of that out, but also having a word limit of the upper limit is 25,000 words, and I've just gone a smidge above that.
Yes.
From a writing point of view is really interesting. So is the fact that you're including characters that other authors are writing. So you've got to be mindful of their presentation and how their personalities emerge. So when you, even though each story will be able to be read alone, when they're together in the anthology, they become this cohesive whole, which is really, really fascinating. Have you enjoyed the process?
Yeah, I have. I rather, but one of the things that I like the most is that that I am able to write with friends, and you and Mary, who are in Dragonblade with me. So that was always exciting.
And sorry, and Carol, and
and Carol now.
Yes, Caroline Warfield.
Caroline Warfield is now also with Dragonblade, but I think that this is like her first. She's just coming out with books with that, whereas you and Mary and I have been with Dragonblade for several years now. So we've done several anthologies. So I knew that it would be wonderful working with you. And, but also I've been a big fan of the Blue Stocking Bells for a while. So I'd be happy to, I was excited to be working with the others, with Caroline, who is now also with Dragonblade with us, and Jude and Alina and Rue, and
and Sherry and
Sherry. Sherry, I love her books. I've read a lot of her. She's got a very romantic style. I love her stuff. So,
and you're right. It's writing with friends.
And Ella Quinn too.
Yes,
Ella in there too.
She's delightful.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's going to be a very strong set. Very strong.
I think so. Think so too. Tell us a little bit about Josephina's story.
Okay. Yeah. I loved writing Josephina. So my style tends to be, it's like my heroines are very enthusiastic, and they're, for the most part, they're not afraid to embrace life or just do what they believe in. And so she's her story, I loved writing her story. When I say some of the stories, we were speaking earlier, and I was telling you, sometimes I struggle with the stories and they seem to take forever to write. And this one, and sometimes they just write themselves. This one just wrote itself. She was, and I think it's going to be very funny when the readers read the opening chapter. They're going to laugh out loud, because this is her. She's going to meet her Duke, not realizing it's her Duke. And then just the way the story progresses, of course, just to backtrack a little bit, Ivy and Iris and Josephina, or the three beauties in the family. I mean, they're all pretty.
They're all lovely ladies,
women,
but there's the social convention, the social, what's popular at the moment. These three sisters have it.
Yes. So they're the ones that are selected to be put out on the marriage mart in the hopes of gaining something. And Josephina's her first love is really, it's plant lore, botany and the medicinal uses of plants and stuff. And that's all she's always spouting, and she's reading like the most obtuse, ridiculous books on, antiquarian books on, the properties of mold, or the, just the, how to heal gout, or how to, these very unromantic type of book. So her first, her first thing is she doesn't care about tea parties or visiting earls or countesses or whatever. She runs to the apothecary shop, and she's, we have to find a garden where I can grow plants, and it's just stuff. And of course, this is where she meets her Duke and doesn't realize who he is. But the story is fun. It's just it's fun, and of course he's going to end up falling in love with her, but the way it comes around to within a couple of hours of meeting her, they somehow end up betrothed to each other. And
I have noticed that in reading some of the other stories in this anthology, because again, sort of readers may not realize, because we are referencing other characters, we've been actively involved in the beta read of each other's stories. So so unlike, say, Upon a Midnight Dreary, which is coming out in less than a week's time, pre-order if you haven't already, guys.
Yes, oh yes, you must, and especially whether you like, and if you love like the Gothic, those wonderful old Victoria Holt, just like Don't Open That Door, Timmy, just like wonderful authors. Mary, who's actually also in our anthology, The Desperate Daughters, she writes such amazingly wonderful Gothic stories. Chastity Bolin is another one who she's like the queen of Gothic. She just does them so well, and you love them.
You're going to get a treat out of them.
Yeah.
But we haven't read any other stories, or at least I haven't, in this anthology. So
I can't wait. I have it pre-ordered, and I'm reading it the night it comes out. I can't
that's right.
wait.
I've on the Amazon list, it's sort of, you pre-ordered on the 25th of February, and it's sort of, yes, I want the book.
I know, and we've been waiting all this time already.
So yeah. So unlike Upon a Midnight Dreary, where it's a treat that we get to savor on sort of release day. Desperate Daughters, sort of, I haven't read all of the stories yet. I will before it comes out. But yes. There are a lot of quick betrothals in this particular one, which I think is fun. It's sort of this instant recognition. It's not even lust. It's this, and I have heard stories like this from lots of people that he sees her and it's sort of, yep, that's in fact my grandparents were like that. My grandfather saw my grandmother for the first time and said, that's the girl I'm going to marry. And indeed, a lifelong love story can start with that instant spark, and it might be an interest in common. It might be a cute meet. It in some cases is a riot in an assembly hall where there's been a sort of some controversial speakers, and each one is going to be a gem.
Yeah, I know. I know that they will be, because you and I know the authors, and the caliber of we know the caliber of the writing, so they're going to be fun. Good. And everyone will have their own style and their own story, and it's wonderful how everybody does have a different approach to love, basically, how the couples fall in love. So that's it. And I have to say, mine in the Desperate Daughters, mine comes around through a misunderstanding, which the hero and heroine just decide to go with, because it suits what they need to, it suits the Duke, what he needs to get done. what he
Yes.
needs to accomplish. But of course, he ends up, actually falling in love with her, which I like to think he just knew instinctively, as like your grandparents did, that
Hmm.
instant connection. You know, and
That's it, and that's it. But for the Duke, it's a case of it's there, but his rational brain has got to sort of work its way around to coming back to what he knows, and by the end he knows why he knows.
yes, yes, yes. And it's true. And it's like in this story, his first thing is just like, this is, you know, it's a business proposition. This is going to work in her favor. Her family needs to be, connected to a Duke anyway. It'll raise them in York society, and he'll give her some money and send her on her way, and she'll be fine. He'll take care of, but he needs her skills right at the moment, and so this is all going to work out. This will be fine. But of course, his heart has other ideas.
It does work out, just not the way he initially thought.
Exactly. Exactly.
And again, this is something that is a little bit different and fun about the Desperate Daughters series, is it's not a London season, which is what you most typically find in historical romance. We've gone north. We've gone north to Yorkshire and the wonderful historic city of York, which has a really dear connection to me, because my grandfather came from around that area, and in fact the little village where the story starts for a lot of the authors, we've called Starbrook, but the actual little village is called Starbeck, and Beck is an ancient word for brook. So to avoid a little bit of confusion, we've called ours Starbrook, and close to Knaresborough, close to Harrogate, 60 miles away from York, and in beautiful, beautiful Yorkshire, and the gorgeous moors. That was fun to explore as well. It sort of, and also looking at things that I knew about York, and it sort of had they really discovered the Viking remains that you can actually go and see now in the attraction Jorvik, which was the original name for York. So once we're allowed to go traveling again, that is definitely one place I'd like to get back to.
Yeah, yeah. I did tour it several years ago, and it was really one of the highlights of the tour. It's just a wonderful old medieval fortified city, and so rich in history, and just so rich in as everything. And you've got the moors and the sea coast, and the whole Viking, the whole Viking culture, background, which I guess they knew of it. It became much more prevalent and popular, in the 1900s, but sure, they still knew about their roots, because that was part of the Danelaw at the time. So it's like, that they were conquered by the Vikings. So
wonderful. Thank you very much for your time. It's been wonderful talking to you about the Book of Love series, your upcoming series, Upon a Midnight Dreary and Desperate Daughters, coming out in May 2022. Everyone,
always a pleasure.
It's my pleasure. It's absolutely my pleasure. Guys, please like, subscribe, and check out the rest of the videos. It's my plan to put out a new video of some kind every week. Last week wasn't an interview. It was my husband doing the narration of the prologue to my Upon a Midnight Dreary story called The Ghost Bride. He did a wonderful job. So check it out in the videos, everyone. And we'll see you next time for more conversations with Elizabeth Ellen Carter.